Hi, I'm Dale Myler, Myler Bits, and we're doing a series on bits and bitting. This will be the first part, and this part will be on recognizing and understanding bit resistance. And I want to point out this is strictly from Myler's point of view, not necessarily yours. This is Mr. Dale Jeffries, who's the founder and CEO of the Worldwide Academy of Equine Dentistry in Glen Ferries, Idaho. Twice I've had an opportunity to go out there and do lectures. And while I was out there, these are some of the skulls that I've been through. They've got a great many of them out there to work with. This is a classroom where every morning they'll come in and they'll talk about the horses or mules they worked on the previous day. This is where they learn their hands-on about equine dentistry, which is the most important thing when it comes to bitting these horses, is to make sure that mouth is in excellent condition. Because a bridle bit's merely a tool. It can be a very nice tool, but it can be just as big a detriment if the mouth isn't in excellent condition. So we highly recommend that you either have a very good veterinarian or a very good equine dentist go through that mouth and get it balanced out. The reason for this picture here is because a lot of times equine dentists or veterinarians will tell you that you've got a horse with a real wide or thick tongue or a low or shallow palate, and these things certainly happen. However, what they don't further tell you about is that when that horse's mouth is closed, the tongue fills the whole cavity of the mouth and lays against the palate of that horse, the same as your tongue is laying against your palate, just sitting there relaxed. It's exactly the same thing. This picture is to show the opening and how much of the tongue you see on this horse. A lot of people think that a bridle bit sets right on the bars of their horse. In fact, it doesn't. If you look here, the lip comes over the bar. So it acts like a cushion down to the bar. I always say that it acts like a mattress. The bit pushes down on the lip till it hits the bar. It doesn't set right on top of the bar. Look at the opening in this horse here. And now look at this horse. Look at how much thicker the lips and stuff are here. This is to show that there's as big a variance within these horses' mouths as there are within human beings. By no means are they all the same. Okay, levels of bits. When we talk about levels of bits, we're not talking about maneuvers a horse makes. We're talking about pressure points of a bridle bit and basically tongue pressure, because this is where our theory changes. Our theory is the horse evades tongue pressure much more than he ever thought of evading bar pressure. And the reason we say that is because right behind your back tooth, it's the same as the bar of a horse. It's a piece of bone covered with skin. You could take your thumbnail and press it in there as hard as you can press and walk any place around this facility you want to go. But if you was to stick your finger in the center of your tongue, you wouldn't go 30 feet and wish you hadn't done that. And a horse is the same way. When they swallow, their tongue elevates, only it'll twist and elevate. So what we consider level 1 bits are pinch and restriction. All right? So I want to show you a couple level 1 bits, because the bit on top, the single joint, and the 3 pieces below it there, the 2 bits below it, are probably the most popular bits in the world and are by far the most overridden bits in the world. I want to show you what actually happens to one of them bits. If I could get you to come and help me, please. Now just visualize, if your horse is riding right, your horse's head's on the vertical. When you step up on that horse, your degree of pull is from above the withers to your bridle bit. So your degree of pull rotates that bit down into the tongue. All right? So when you take a hold of that bit, it collapses. It's pinching the outer lip of the horse, it's pinching the bars and driving right into the tongue. Where we didn't feel that was a very clear and precise signal was when we wanted to pick that shoulder up. You feel that?
Absolutely.
It's just driving down into the center of her arm. When you pick up on a bit like this, and them rings catch in the center of it, it drives down into that horse's tongue, and you're trying to pick his shoulder up and move him over. We didn't feel that was a very clear and precise signal. You're asking for 2 things. You're asking for a horse to roll over into the bridle, and you're trying to pick him up and move him. So that's why we designed this set of bridle bits right here. Where'd you go? Okay. There. How's that feel on your arm?
Much nicer.
All right.
Doesn't pinch.
Is that a lift? Is that a lift?
Yes.
Anything catch?
No.
Okay. And that's all we were trying to do. We're trying to build a set of bridle bits that will allow a horse to be more relaxed into the bridle and have a more clear and precise signal that we want to control the shoulders. Because a horse does not go to his head and neck. A horse follows his shoulder. You've all either seen a horse or been on a horse that's tried to get out from under you. You'll take a hold of him, bring his nose here, and they keep going over here. Horse follows the shoulder. The head and neck are balance points. Okay, so you can see here, this is how a single joint would drop. By the way, I cut that tongue out of my brother. You can see how that could drop down and drive into the horse's tongue. You can also see when you pick up there how them interlocking rings could catch and drive down into the tongue. And you can see here how this would go down into the tongue, but when you pick up, you're just going to pick that shoulder up and lift that horse. So that's all we were trying to do there. Again, this is Mr. Jeffries. In his book, he states that if you've got a bit that has a lot of tongue pressure and you keep a continuous contact, that what happens is you pull the tongue back up into the throat, it pushes against a soft palate. When it pushes against a soft palate, it partially shuts off the epiglottis, which shuts off part of the air passage to that horse. So we ask a horse for 100% of his heart and we shut off part of his air passage. That doesn't make much sense to us. So here you can see it. Here's an x-ray. You can see the bit driving down into that horse's tongue. That's what they consider the bit groove of the tongue there. See how the tongue's thicker where the bit's pressed up against it? The black portion above that is the soft palate. Once that tongue goes up there and presses into that, that horse is starting to shut off part of his air passage. And there's a perfect example of a horse that's under a little bit of tension. Look at how deep that bit is in that horse's tongue. Look at how that bit is pressing and pinching the outer lips of that horse. Now what's ironic here is look where the rein is. The rider, this horse by the way happens to be going about 30 miles an hour when this picture was taken. The rider's hands are low to try and bring that horse back to him. If his hands were in proper position, there would even be more pinch and more drive down into the tongue than there is there. That's a great picture to show a horse with little tension. This is Dr. Joyce Harmon. In her article, she states that the tongue, a lot of people think it's just a muscle in the horse's body, where in fact, it's the strongest muscle in the horse's body. And there's small muscles from the tongue that go to the hyoid bone. From the hyoid bone, they go straight down the center of that horse's sternum, and from there they go to both shoulders. You restrict the swallowing of that horse, after a while, you restrict the whole system, muscle system, driving down to the center of the neck and into both shoulders, and that's why you see so many horses heavy in the forehand. When a horse has got tension in his tongue, he cannot lift his back. When he can't lift his back, he can't use the circle of nerves that go from underneath his belly up over the tail back to his pole and use his body. You got tension in the tongue, you got tension throughout the whole body. There's a lady who happens to be a chiropractor, and she stated in here, in general, restricting the tongue will also restrict jaw and neck movement. I don't often see tongue restriction alone without other jaw and neck holding patterns. It's exactly the same thing that happens to a human when you restrict the swallowing on them. All right? There's a doctor that says that they don't ever do clinical work on the tongue because it would remarkably interfere with the swallowing. Well, this is the end of this episode. I hope you'll stay with us to go through another episode. We're going to talk more about evasions. Thank you very much.